Good evening, friends. Thank you so much for joining us this Friday evening. Hope everything is going well for you so far. Well, let's jump right into our story for tonight. As housing costs soar, more people are facing eviction, unfortunately. But as the number of evictions rise, so do the number of people refusing to leave their homes without a fight. As our national investigative team explains, these violent encounters are even turning deadly.
Housing is becoming increasingly expensive across the country, and for those struggling to pay their rent, that could mean eviction. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. It's a possibility millions of Americans face, and with the prospect of losing their home comes another threat: violence.
Investigative reporter Kristen Crowley explains how some evictions can turn deadly and what experts say can fix the but growing problem.
Dispatch requesting assistance.
It's February 29th, 2024.
Suspect is still in the residence.
The emergency
They have an officer down.
is dire.
We now have 2 officers down.
Police flood the front yard of a home just outside Kansas City, Missouri.
2 officers shot.
I need at least 4 ambulances.
The call brings emergency crews from across the region to help.
Be ready to take your patients. Be advised this is still an active scene. PD's still taking fires.
But help is too late.
Giving you another live look. This is the beginning of this procession.
2 people died that day. Independence, Missouri officer Cody Allen.
I was like, why? Why?
And Carmen Mack's big brother, Drexel Mack.
This is not fair. This is not fair. My brother should still be here. He should have not got killed doing his job.
Drexel wasn't law enforcement. The job that got him killed was serving an eviction notice. The man being evicted, Larry Acree, is now charged in the double murder. Mack was a civil process server for years, tasked with serving papers like eviction notices for people who fell too far behind on payments. Work that isn't considered inherently dangerous. But Carmen says she constantly worried for his safety.
Was your brother ever scared?
Yeah, a lot. People are very crazy, and you come to take their stuff from them is how they feel. So they try to protect their belongings.
At that moment of eviction, everyone is tense. It can escalate very quickly.
And eviction expert Carl Gershenson says examples of violent evictions are popping up across the country.
Here's a notice to evict. Okay.
What?
It's your notice put the knife down right now.
We found, quite a large number of these stories being reported each year, whether that be a tenant committing violence against a landlord violence on the tenant.
Gershenson is the director of Princeton University's Eviction Lab, a group that formed because he says no one was tracking the rate of evictions in the U.S. The number it determined is about 3.6 million a year.
What about violence with evictions? Is that being tracked?
No one is tracking the co-occurrence of violence in evictions.
Eviction Lab is trying to do that, but without a nationwide reporting system. It relies on news reports.
Deputies were serving a civil eviction.
And says the numbers may actually be higher. In 2022, it documented at least 38 deaths. By 2023, the number was 44. And that's not including other types of violence that people survived.
We had 2 women shot, one of them shot in the head.
Philadelphia City Council member Jamie Gauthier says over the course of 4 months, the city saw 3 eviction-related shootings. Everyone survived, but Gauthier says Philadelphia needed to take an unprecedented step.
To me, just completely unacceptable, and so much so that we needed to pause until we got things more in order.
Gauthier wants to see even more change down the road and reduce evictions altogether. But nationwide, that's becoming a tall task.
We're seeing evictions reaching the exact same levels that they were before the pandemic in most cities, but in some places, evictions are higher than they've ever been.
That includes cities like Miami, Las Vegas, Houston, and Phoenix. But Gershenson says rural areas and small communities are also feeling the squeeze.
The rate of eviction just continues to rise as housing affordability becomes more of a crisis.
Jim McDonald with the United Way of Greater Kansas City says it's important to note a majority of evictions are not deadly or violent. But if evictions increase, so do the chances for more cases of violence. McDonald says the solution to that is having more resources to keep people in their homes. One policy is having great success in the Kansas City area, where a local ordinance gives tenants a right to an attorney when they're facing eviction. Those attorneys often negotiate deals or payment plans with the landlords.
And since that policy was enacted, the majority of households who had a lawyer by their side have been able to avoid evictions.
Some of those attorneys rely on federal emergency rental assistance, funding that came as a result of the pandemic. Funding that by the end of 2024 is expected to run out.
We're going to turn over every stone to find the resources needed to continue this initiative at some level.
Worst case scenario, this funding runs out and you don't find the replacement funding. What happens?
More families will be vulnerable and at risk of losing their housing.
Just weeks after Drexel was shot.
Live at 5, shots fired while a processor approached a house this afternoon.
Another Kansas City area eviction-related shooting.
It's just too much.
Carmen says she can't make sense of any violence, but she hopes change comes with evictions and safety becomes a priority, even if it's too late for her brother. But she'd rather not think about how he died.
He always had you cracking up, laughing.
She'd rather remember how he lived.
A helping hand, a shoulder to cry on, a shoulder to lean on. Very respectable, loving man. That's what he was. And still is in my heart today.
Evictions can be deadly in more ways than one. The Eviction Lab says people forced from their homes have higher mortality rates than those who stay put. That's in part because they're more likely to then lose their job and become homeless. The Eviction Lab also says the time in your life you're most likely to be evicted is between birth and 18, meaning children are feeling the brunt of this crisis. If you're struggling to pay rent, one resource is the United Way. You can call 211 and ask.
Well, friends, just a reminder of all the places that you can stream. You can obviously watch our live newscasts on 13 Plus, Android TV, YouTube TV, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, or stream at KOLD.com/livestream. We're going to leave you with a live look from our Mount Bigelow cam, where you can see that beautiful sunset starting to go down a little earlier than usual, but hope that brings some cooler temperatures for everyone. Hope you have a great weekend, and will join us for 13 News live at 10 for more of your news and weather.